was 13 or 14, I was walking a trail with a friend along a lake to go fishing. After we made a turn on the trail, my friend kept asking me if I could see what was up ahead. I didn't know what he was talking about, as I didn't see anything, but my friend was getting more and more agitated, and then told me to get out my knife. I was confused and asked him why. He just kept saying, "You can't see it?" We were almost underneath him when I saw him, a man in his 30s or 40s, sitting on a large branch that hung over the trail, about 15 feet in the air. He looked down at us and said, "I was hoping you two didn't see me." My friend and I ran faster and faster than I ever ran until we were back in the road. I get chills thinking about it this day. This took place in Marin County, California, either in 1989 or 90. So me, my husband and my daughter, 7, and my niece, 8, came camping this weekend. We've camped at this place 4 times, never had any issues. Last night we were setting up and about to start making dinner. About 8 p.m. when my daughter looks at me, looks behind me, looks back at me. I said, "What?" She said, "Look behind you." There is a little kid, couldn't be more than 6 years old, just standing there watching my daughter and niece play with a soccer ball. I figured he was here camping too and just interested in what they were doing. My daughter invites him to play and he runs back into the woods like he got scared. I didn't see him for about 15 minutes, so I figured he went back to his campsite. Then he comes back, and at this point it's dark outside, so we asked him where his parents were. He said he didn't have any parents. So I'm like, then my husband asked if he was camping here. He screamed at my husband, "My parents are dead and I'm homeless. I sleep in the woods." I said, "Okay, well that's not safe at all, buddy. I'm going to call somebody to help you." He said, "Please call them. I don't have a family." So I started to call the non-emergency line and gave him some food and Gatorade and told him to hang out until help got here. Cops got there about 10 minutes later. They start trying to talk to him. He takes off running into the woods and yells that his brother will be back for us. Cops chased after him. No idea what happened after that, but I did not sleep a wink last night. It was the creepiest thing that I've ever dealt with in my life. There's no houses within 10 miles of here. I'm so worried about him, but so creeped out about the brother thing. This was around 2017, in spring or fall. I was 19 at the time and I lived in Germany. Me and my friends used to hang out at a friend's basement to smoke the good stuff and play video games or watch movies until late at night. My best friend at the time lived just a couple houses down the street from where I lived, and usually it was 2 of us riding on our bikes back home. There were 2 routes we used to get home, one through the city or the other sufficiently shorter one. There was a small forest, maybe 1 kilometer through completely dark but proper forest road. That route made a 90-degree turn to cross some rails, a major unlit highway via a bridge. We only took that route when we were equipped with lights and in a group of at least 2 people, because there were a lot of bars and you don't want to be on your own in case something happens. One night we set out to ride home both quite stoned and maybe a couple beers in, but not off the deep end. As we got close to that 90-degree turn where the road heads up the bridge, my friend who was riding in front of me suddenly brakes because there was a relatively large tree laying across the road. We both took our bikes and lifted them over the tree and continued. Maybe 10 to 20 meters later, we suddenly spot a fire on the other side, right at the junction where we had made our turn, just the size of a small campfire. We got a little slower as we saw the fire. Then when getting closer, we spotted 6 or 7 around the fire forming a semicircle all facing us. All of them were wearing long white dresses or gowns with masks. Not Ku Klux like masks, but rather like a sailor's hat with veils. A couple seconds went by and we were just staring at them, and I guess they were staring at us. And then one of them moved towards us and started sprinting away towards the bridge on our, and didn't stop until we were on a well-lit road again. That's been the craziest story among me or my friends ever since. When I was a teenager, in the early 2000s, South London, there was a rumor in my high school that there was a naked man who looked like Father Christmas in the woods. We relished that story, but all secretly understood it would be an urban legend. After school, me and my friends would go to the park 5 minutes away from the school to play on the tire swing and make daisy chains, talk about boys, etc. The park was on a seam of ancient woods. It was more or less a rectangular shape with a large rectangular grassy green in the middle, surrounded by a woodland on 3 sides. The grassy green had a children's playground on the right-hand side, butting up on the woodland on one side. The children's playground was large, with an assortment of equipment for both younger and older children, and was gated off from the rest of the park by 2-meter-high metal railings. One summer's evening after school, we were hanging out in the children's park by the tire swing, as we usually did, when I noticed an unusual movement in the trees that bordered the other side of the metal railing. All I could see was a mixture of green and brown tones amidst the shadows in the woodland. So I approached the metal railings of the children's park to get to a better view. The woodland had a kind of opening in it, as the center of which stood a large old oak tree. Dappled light filtered through the canopy of the foot of the oak tree, forming a natural stage before the audience of the children's playground. As my eyes began to focus, I realized that right in the middle of the stage was a young man about 30 years, stood staring at us, a couple group of 3 teenage girls in school uniform. Our eyes transfixed for a moment before I looked down and screamed. My eyes locked on him in terror, but he did not avert his gaze. He stood there watching us while completely naked, masturbating vigorously. My friends ran over to my side and followed my eyeline. Horrified, they grabbed me and pulled me out of my shock and out of the park, and we ran home. It was just before the time mobile phones were ambiguous, so we did not call the police, and that was the end of the matter. About 20 years later, I always wonder if that man went on to do anything worse. There was another incident that happened a little while later, but I don't know if it was connected.